you haven't been down to the national park in New Mexico called White Sands, you have not experienced life or nature for that fact. And to double down on that, you should probably try and find yourself a copy that's not anywhere to be found of the White Sands incident by Dr. Daniel W. Fry. This is probably part 4, maybe part 5 that we're talking about. I don't even remember.
Yes.
And we're going to get into what? Chapter?
There's going to be many parts.
What chapter is this?
We're still in chapter 1.
Oh, we're on chapter 1. Okay.
We took like 3 episodes to get through the introduction.
There's such a there's groundwork and philosophy. There's just so much to deal with.
Yeah, so let's get back to this. I want to start right off the bat.
Oh, by the way, for getting me this book.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say shout out to Jason Rigby here for getting me this first edition copy of Albert Schweitzer, My Life and Thought, an autobiography.
Yeah, and Raw said that dude was the man.
Yeah, and I just finished Reverence for Life, and it was lights out. Yeah. His final chapter, most people try and pump it up for the final chapter. This guy didn't even have to try.
He was just automatically.
It was just like slap, slap, slap. My face was red when I was done.
It's like, who is that great swimmer in the Olympics? I still think he's awesome.
Phelps?
Yeah, it's like he just goes out there.
Yeah.
He's smoking weed, eating Reese's Pieces.
Smoke as much weed as you want.
And then just plows through all the competition, makes it look like they're little kids.
Joke.
That's how he was.
See you later. Yeah, this is Schweitzer with his writing.
That's so funny. So he uses an analogy, and I want to get back. We'll start on this analogy.
Dr. Daniel Fry?
Yes. No, this is the voice, or the extraterrestrial.
Okay.
A man who seeks scientific knowledge is like an ant climbing a tree. He knows when he is moving upward, but his vision is short, and he is unable to encompass the entire trunk. The result is he may get out on a lower limb without realizing he has left the main trunk.
Right. So if we think about speaking about foundations, right, that took us so long to introduce this thing, science in and of itself requires a foundation that is also applicable to 2 other branches of life, which they will describe later. But let's consider one branch, which is material science. You've climbed this trunk, and we think there are fundamentals, like the fundamental law of physics, right? You go through all those Newtonian laws, and they say, when you do this thing's going to occur, velocity, mass, blah, 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 blah. All the classical physics. But then things start to get a little bit more complicated in a specific sense. Where it's like, we understand gravity's here, right, and magnetism. Well, let's look at, special aspects of it. So then what have we done? We're fighting each other over the fact whether a light photon is a particle or a wave. And then we're fighting each other whether or not gravity waves exist. What we've gone is we're this ant that's gone so far out on the branch that we're looking at small nuances of specifics, and we think that answering this nuance or this specific of this one thing that we found will define the law for everything else. So as we split out through these bifurcations, we're like, I'm hanging out on this leaf, and I'm like, oh, gravity waves. If I answer this answers everything, right? Or if I find this God particle, that'll answer everything else too. But what the extraterrestrial states is that you are so far off into material science that you've left the fundamental, simple aspects of what actually makes universe and the creation tick. And because you're out there, you have no idea you're out there. And you use all these weird statistical theories and essentially abstract mathematics to explain something that is so difficult to explain because it's so nuanced. And you think that nuance can be applicable to everything throughout life. This has been our problem. Let's just take some sort of statistical idea of how to define something and then bring it back to apply how that affects human beings.
Yeah, and it develops in our thought process. I was listening to a professor, and I think now this is more important than ever, and it should be taught in every school what he's doing, is critical thinking, and he's actually teaching kids how to do this. Like he has people that are Christians, people that are Islamic, people that are, because these are going out on the limbs, and then people doubling down on these limbs. You know what I mean? You know, that's the ant that goes way out there on that
Right.
far limb.
And then they're like, let's bring the colony with us, you know, and then the branch is bowing like this.
So he gets people of, and he's one of the most popular professors. He's at Carnegie Mellon, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a real popular class. And then he has them have a conversation, and then he kind of guides it, you know, coaches them, you know, so that no one gets like super emotional or gets crazy, you know, any of that. And or start saying belittling, you know, they like correct
Classic.
it to make sure.
I don't know how to fight that person's logic, so I'm going to make them feel small.
Yeah, exactly. But it reminds me of this, and he says this in the book. He says, so the seeker of knowledge finds that the great basic laws, and he has basic laws in, you know, quotations, which he once thought was unshakable, now begin to divide and to point in opposite directions.
Yeah. So when we start looking at like Newtonian laws and stuff like that, and we said these are the fundamentals of creation in the universe, the further we go down that path, we realize they're literally diverging. They're actually nowhere near fundamental anymore. So how could that possibly be the stance for all of us to stand off of? Is that the platform for our reality?
Yeah, and then we can say, okay, well, even Isaac Newton in those days when he first came up with that was persecuted for even that.
Just for that.
And then we look at it now, and it's like, okay, Mr. Newton, you know, well, we know, I mean, we can look at, you know, we look at Einstein and know, I mean, he was right in a lot of things, but that's just part of evolving. You can't be perfect in every theory that you create.
But they coin these theories as absolute law.
Mm-hmm.
I make absolute statements all the time. Anybody who knows me knows I do that, right? But when you make an absolute statement of law regarding, you know, like science and its progression and saying that human beings on Earth are the absolute pinnacle of knowledge, it's the most foolish, conceited, ignorant statement you could ever make.
Yeah, I think you always make absolute statements for like hyperbole, like to get a point across. So it's not necessarily like this is my viewpoint and this is a fact.
Well, that's how science takes it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, anyone that
this is your branch, and I'm still over here hugging the trunk. You know what I mean? I'm a trunk hugger
because the size of the ant compared to the size of a redwood in the forest, the redwood forest in California, that's the equivalent to my knowledge of this universe. But you'd have to make the trunk like infinite, the size.
Infinitely large, right.
So it was funny. I was a friend of mine, I posted on Snapchat one of our episodes. And so a friend of mine from Washington State, she said, she goes, "Do you believe in aliens?" And I was like, "No," because I wanted to, I just wanted to start off the conversation.
Yeah. No.
No. I was like, I believe in science.
Oh, yeah.
So you remember Nacho Libre?
Of course.
Yeah, he's like...
Jack Black?
He's like, chips were very important and not getting baptized because he wanted to believe in science. But there's this, like you were talking about, this divulgence of religion and science.
Yeah.
And then there's this, you know... And people just automatically choose a branch to sit on
all the time
when there's a trunk that you should be hanging out on.
And then they're over there like using abstract math to prove that they have the strongest branch, right?
Yeah.
I'm literally down there. I'm like, okay, the bark feels good. And then like, can I get my other hand around it? Just the tips of my fingers are touching around it. And then I realize it continues to grow.
Well, I saw on that Dark Side of Nature, there was 2 leopards fighting. One leopard on the branch was fine.
Yeah.
2 leopards and then bouncing all around fighting, not fine.
Not fine. Snap.
So it snapped and went down, and they both, you know, and they had to hurt themselves because it was way up high. But, you know, you get, that's what happens.
Yeah.
That it can't, creational law, which is creational law, will make the branch break because truth, you know, when you're on that false net, you're on that small little branch of weakness, and then you're getting this tribe together and building it up. Yeah. It's like these leopards. It's the same thing. It's going to crack. It's going to break.
Who's got more Nobel Prizes, me or you? You know what I mean? And they're brawling over each other. Once you notice something about trees, they drop their own branches. They're self-pruning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only going to hang out on the trunk. That's the thing that's guaranteed for me. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think, you know, we always hear this, and especially when I was in the Marine Corps, we would talk about this with training, is go back to the basics. You know, and that's what I feel like when it's the trunk. It's like, let's get back to creation. Let's get back to what we know is infinite. What we know is we can see with our eyes. We don't have to believe. We don't have to have a theory.
No.
These are facts.
It's an objective sense of realism that happens through your own experience of observation.
Yeah, and he says this, as a result of this seeming, and I love this word, confusion,
Yeah.
the scientist comes to the conclusion that he is approaching the limit of knowledge.
Yeah, because it's so difficult to explain, so difficult to prove. This must be the holy grail of science. And then he's like, I got an idea. Supersymmetry. It's like, all right, here we go. Go ahead, tell me how you're going to prove your crazy theory right so you can continue to keep your title for your tenured job at Princeton University.
And he says, approaching the limit of the knowledge, which can be conceived that all physical laws ultimately become purely, and you said this, statistical.
Mm-hmm.
When he reaches this point, the only way he can make further progress is to follow the line of abstract mathematical reasoning.
Oh, look at that.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And you know what the problem is? He reaches the limit. Dude, creation is infinite. There is no limit. That should be your first red flag to say, I'm going in the wrong direction. If the applicable laws begin to stop at a certain point, I've gone the wrong way.
The extraterrestrial, the voice, if we want to call it.
It has a name. I'm not going to give it yet.
We won't give it yet. Said this, and this isn't not highlighted, but this, I like really simple, basic.
I know you do, and I got all
slap me in the face statements. So here's one for me. You will find that fundamental truths are always simple and understandable when they are viewed from the proper perspective.
Oh, interesting.
So I was like, okay. So if it's complex and it's really hard, then I need to shift my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So this was really cool because I was like, okay, the situation that I'm facing right now seems insurmountable and seems really tough. Well, that's because I'm looking at it from the wrong perspective.
Yeah.
It's not the situation.
No.
Because there's infinite situations in an infinite universe.
That's how I view this learning experience.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So what if I change my angle again and it's still difficult?
Yeah, it's like modern warfare. You know, how you can, on the video game, I know a lot of our listeners play that. It's the #1 game. Yeah. But it's like, you don't see that guy. You can release a drone. Yeah. And then have the drone fly around, and then what happens? Now you're seeing everybody.
Now you see everybody.
You can know, or you can pull up from the guy perspective and kind of look, and then you kind of see around the corner there's a guy hiding. Yeah. It's just changing in perspective.
Or here's a good one. You're so close to the branch, leave the tree. Walk away from it. Go look at it from a distance to see how it branches out. Even if when you change your perspective it's still difficult and it continues to be difficult, maybe something's wrong with the thought then. Maybe something about it in relation to reality is improper.
Well, I thought of when he said shift the perspective is if I'm a little ant and I'm on the branch.
You are a little ant.
All I see is the branch.
Yeah.
When I'm on the trunk, now I can see all the branches.
There we go.
So I just shifted my perspective.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. So, and then they said this.
They love the word shift. Even the play yarn are like, we are shifted in time. Yeah. We shift this. They're all shifters. Bunch of shifters.
Instead of drifters, shifters.
Yeah, shifters.
It's like a dune.
Oh, hey.
I always think of like the sand and then everything's like shifting and moving.
Oh, I cannot
The new movie,
I can't wait for the new one.
And the theaters are open, so.
Are they?
Yes.
I was curious about that.
Yeah, the one over, I don't want to get two, but the Rio 24, the one over by. But I want to see that in IMAX.
I would love to see that in IMAX.
They said this we can and will help your people to do, but only if they wish it and are able to follow the path which we will point out. It will be given to you sometime in the future.
Okay, so that same statement is the same one that was carried by Ra. They said that if the calling is great enough, it is greater than the amount of people that are not calling, they will come down to directly help. That's what it is. So
yeah, the wonders is with Raw, like, and then they have percentages and stuff like that. They bring the dent. They
said because of the law of squares, right? They have a mathematical way of looking at a spiritual call for people.
I like this guy
wishing to know.
He's like using our language, like, "Hey, pal."
He trained in it. You know what I mean?
And he's like, "When you guys figure it out, we'll come down."
Yeah. So
that's way simpler. Raw's way too complicated.
No, I know that. Yeah, this guy, he's really straightforward. It's fantastic.
Well, he spent 2 years understanding the language.
Right, with advanced language learning.
Raw was like that really finicky Louis Vuitton.
He's like the Ferrari with the expensive oil change.
Yeah, Raw's like, yeah, exactly. Raw's like, you got to have these things set up exactly perfect. Yeah. We're 1 degree off. I'm not talking.
I'm going to use
I'm out.
I'm using a word you've never heard of.
It's like a super bitchy model.
Oh,
Raw
yeah.
is like,
no, that photo, that angle doesn't work. That angle does not work.
Where's the cigarette?
Yeah, exactly. Magnum, blue steel.
This guy just comes down, hangs out he's not in the ship, but
no,
he uses the ship as like a talking device, and then like a walkie-talkie.
Here's the cool part: you think the ship's doing the talking, he doesn't. They use a thing called electronic modulation of the internal eardrum. So what they're doing is what you would coin as telepathy. They use a mechanical device with electromagnetic waves to then pinpoint it to the receiver, which is the human being, and then modulate the resonant frequency going through their ear to send them that.
Well, that makes
it's not
sense,
even coming through the ship.
It's just technology.
It's not coming through the ship at all.
If you went to the 1600s and showed them a TV, they think it's straight out from Satan.
They'd hang you.
And magic.
They'd burn you at a stake.
Or a phone or any of that stuff. I mean, think about it. I was just talking to somebody from China.
Yeah, I know.
Seriously, from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Before you came in. Talking to somebody from Hong Kong.
It's amazing.
Instantly.
That's amazing.
I mean, so technology is going to figure that out.
It always does.
We're close to understanding dolphin language.
Yeah, we got to get off the branch, though.
Yeah, this is all the stuff we talk about in Turtles podcast.
Yeah,
so you guys subscribe.
Come on, guys. Yeah.
T-Cast. That's our biggest podcast now.
Yeah.
It went from the smallest to the largest.
It's growing.
It's a Congo podcast.
Yeah.
I love the
Kongcast.
Yeah, Kong.
King Kong.
Yeah, have you seen the new King Kong movie?
No.
It's on HBO.
No.
Cinemax. I haven't watched it either, but I'm excited.
You say that like you've seen it. I get
It's King Kong and Godzilla fighting.
Sounds great.
Yeah, you would think Godzilla would win. Isn't he more badass? Or
Godzilla
is Godzilla she?
Godzilla's a she.
People are gonna get so pissed off at me right now.
No, she was a she, and she comes from the Bikini Atoll Islands after our nuclear testing.
Yeah.
So
I saw the Godzilla movie, but I saw Kong, the one on the island. That was badass. That was a great movie.
Favorite Godzilla character? Mothra.
Oh yeah. I think that the one before this had Mothra and all the monsters.
Oh yeah,
there was like 3 or 4 of them.
But Mothra was like metallic. I'm talking about the OG one where it's like.
I just have to be in the mood to watch those. They're like Transformers, same movie.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much going on, and then it's so loud, and it's just like, oh
yeah.
I mean, I have to really. But that 4-hour Luke Snyder or the Snyder DC, it's on there for
DC
4
comic
hours.
One.
Yeah, where it's the Superman and Wonder
Batman.
Woman and all that.
Oh, all of them.
I didn't. It seemed like an hour and a half to me, and it was 4 hours straight.
I gotta watch that.
That's a great one.
That sounds.
If you like superhero shit,
that soun's exciting.
Which I do. I love superheroes. To me, are just the hero's journey.
That's the why we love it so much.
It's almost it's like they're good to watch. Like they help humanity to watch those.
Yeah,
because it inspires us.
I'm inspired.
I don't think it's. Plus Wonder Woman. Oh my god.
I know.
She's
so tall.
Beautiful woman.
Why do they put her in high heels though? You know what? Hollywood's gonna stop.
Oh, because it's
Hollywood's gotta stop sexualizing women in film. Just leave it alone. If they're already good looking, don't throw them in heels.
Yeah, she is beautiful. And then Scarlett Johansson, of course, that's
Dude,
coming
Black
out.
Widow.
Black Widow. Yeah.
Oh, I'm psyched about like that spy espionage film and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm ready. So
delicious.
Let's close out this chapter. Here's one last thing they say.
Yeah, close it out, please.
Because we're ranting.
Please close it out.
People like our rants, though. If any one of the nations that dominate one or more others on your planet were to achieve conclusive scientific superiority over the other, then under present conditions, a war of extermination would likely follow.
Right.
That's how he closes out chapter 1.
Yeah. Why?
Very nice.
Why is that?
Very nice.
Very nice. We have nuclear weapons. You don't. I have bigger nuclear weapon than Gabajev, you my neighbor.
That's the truth.
Yeah. Whoa, nukes. No, but here's the deal. If we don't share in scientific knowledge, it will feed those who want more power and have a sense of hierarchy and superiority in this world. And so for them, they say, well, I'll just wipe out my problems. It's like putting Clorox on the planet, right? And they've seen this before when people have nationalistic ideals and then they start pitting technology against one another. That's when things like Atlantis and Lemuria, also called Mu, destroy each other, when they nuke each other into oblivion.
Mm.
Earth has been nuked many, many times.
What was the city he was in Africa in that book? It wasn't Lemuria.
Lambaran.
Yeah, Lambaran. Yeah.
Lambaran.
But when I read this, he said the political tensions which now exist between the many nations of Earth must be eased.
Mm-hmm.
So and we hear this from any extraterrestrial beings that are talking to humanity. Always puts this out there like, you guys are fucking it up with this whole military industrial complex, and I think we're probably the worst.
Of course we're the worst.
As far as the United States. I mean, other countries would look at us as being a big bully, probably.
Russia, China, and the U.S. are just kicking it with nukes.
Yeah, I know India's got a lot of technology, too.
Yeah,
billion people.
Don't think that India doesn't have technology. They do.
Yeah.
Space
programs,
programs,
because they don't eat cows,
nukes, everything like that.
Doesn't mean that they're chill.
Yeah, they're not chill. They're anti-chill. The second you got nukes, you're anti-chill.
Yeah, who do they always fight all the time? Is it Burma? There's a border issue, and they always go back and forth in the mountains.
Who cares? Just give the guy the mountain.
I know. Yeah, it's not that big
Does
of a
it
deal.
freaking matter?
I mean, I get Israel.
Did you see that Iron
I mean,
Dome?
you're so small. You're so small,
Dome?
and then you have like so many countries around you. Always just being.
You want to know something? They have their history is way too conflicted.
Yes, that whole area is.
The whole problem with identity, geography, religion coming together.
Right.
It just causes constant war and death.
I was like, is New York the same size as Israel?
Probably.
Why not just everybody from Israel come over to New York, and New York just call itself Israel?
Yeah, New Israel.
Yeah, the United States.
Whatever.
We have. I mean, most everybody from Israel has been. How many Jews are in New York?
Just almost everybody. Yeah, like just call it New Israel, and then just give everybody who wants.
Bring them over, and then give all that land too.
It's freaking land.
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares?
We
Fight over the ocean.
How many people are in Israel?
Do you know what? That's that sort of conflicting attitude over there is. If we can't carry that to other planets, that's when I look at what's going on with Elon Musk. What happens when we're hanging out on the moon, all of us, and
but
we go on Mars?
It would. I mean, you have to think about it though. If you are Israel, and I'm not saying bad or good either way, but if you are Israel, I mean, imagine whatever country you live in right now that you're listening to, and then you have 3 or 4 countries around you. Like for us, it'd be like Mexico and Canada constantly bombing us.
Yeah, it's honestly.
So you're going to be edgy.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. I would be edgy too.
But then we're doing the same to them.
I know. Are we so far past why we're doing this though? Do we lack that much understanding?
Well, that's what he's saying.
Stop shooting missiles at one another.
But I love how he reduced it down to scientific superiority.
Yeah, I don't honestly.
Like technology, scientific superiority. That's going to give them the edge.
Yeah,
and China recognizes this.
Of course they do.
And that's going to give them the edge, and they're going to push over and be that superpower.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't know much about the history of Israel and Palestine. I don't know why the conflict is as terrible as it is.
I mean, this is like the 1980s war and all that.
But I got to tell you, just guys, like, can we find some understanding?
It's religion.
I know.
On both sides.
On both sides. Yeah. And it's this idea of I own this resource. Just chill.
You have a holy site, which is like, I don't want.
Why can't two? If somebody thinks a site's holy,
it's dumb, bro.
Dude, if somebody thinks a site's holy and another religion thinks a site's holy, can you guys just share in the holiness of that site? Just what the hell?
Do you think God would want that?
I understand someone might think they own it more than the other, but just share. Just be like, okay.
We don't own anything.
No one owns anything.
It's a farce. That piece of paper that you have that says you have a mortgage.
Yeah.
That says you have a mortgage and you own your house. It's all false.
It's all.
The bank is false. The property. Everything.
The U.S. dollar.
You can't own that. What happens if a nuclear bomb's dropped right now? How much is your title worth?
0.
It's farce. It's a farce. It's like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and all this. Why is Dogecoin so popular right now? It's because everybody agrees that it's valuable.
That's all it is.
But it's nothing.
But it really is.
None of it is. Bitcoin, the fiat, fiat currency, it's all nothing.
You have me on a tangent right now.
It's all nothing. People, when you realize that, and
when you
Lex Friedman was talking about this on that podcast.
When you shift your perspective.
When you realize,
mm-hmm.
And astronauts have this amazing ability to do this. They can go way out, and then they look at Earth, and there's this small little. I mean, if you go to space enough, Earth can become a blue dot.
Yeah,
it just looks like a little blue dot, and you look at that little blue dot, and then you look around, and it's just as vast in space, and you're like, really?
I know
those are wars. Really?
Why have we had so much bloodshed? Why do we hate so much? Why is there economic turmoil? Why are there people that don't have shelter?
Really,
what is
Israel? This? Really, Haifa? I mean, really?
Yeah, like China,
Pakistan, and all those, like the Middle East, and Islam, and Judaism, and Christianity,
terrorism, and like
all that. It's like go hang out in space and see your little speck.
That's because space is the shifting of perspective.
Yeah,
I've backed up. That's
You're
what
on the trunk.
is, dude. Every astronaut that goes up there is like, snap. My perspective has changed.
You're on the trunk.
Big time trunker.
Yeah.
They're big trunkers.
So now you can see the limbs.
Yeah, they're big trunkers. Mega trunk.
I just feel like I love getting this. I mean, to me, when you read stuff like this and you see even whether it's a myth. Let's say there's no such thing as aliens. I was joking with a friend last night. Let's say there's no such thing as aliens and this is all a myth. There's still reading this still changes your perspective.
Yeah.
It causes you to have to shift that perspective.
Do you feel a resonation of truth in it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you want to know why? It makes fucking reasonable sense.
Yes.
It's sad that Israel, because of a way somebody thinks, they have to build a defense system to protect their people from missiles. Mm-hmm. It's sad because of a way Palestine thinks, that they have to have so much hate to launch missiles at those people.
And then they feel like they have the right to impose on each other's free will
constantly. And it's like, I don't really care about the fucking religion or your past. These are human beings.
Right.
You're both human beings. Figure that out. Everything is naturally interlinked. All of our biological functions, cellular division, literally toxins, antitoxins, all of it. We share in all of it. You guys shared the same damn oxygen in the desert. Why are you blasting each other? And it's getting recycled by a tree every single time.
The answer, if you boil it down, it's religion. It's Judaism versus Muslim.
It's just, and I'm going to use this term because I read the book, they do not revere life. Life is not a reverence. It's more of a material gain.
Noah, I will put an ideology over a human life. That's what happens.
It's effed up, dude.
It's the fucking branch.
It's effed up.
I'm on the fucking branch.
Yeah, and for you people that are listening on the branch, get back to the trunk.